What do you feel like are the biggest misconceptions about final rule that agents have? Because I'm sure there's plenty, right? As you said, very few people probably read the entire document from cover to cover. What are the biggest misconceptions about it, like that agents just don't fully understand? I'm sure you see all the chatter and posts about it in different communities and things like that. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that's why y'all don't see me commenting as much on social media posts like I once was, because there's so many agents and other people that think that they know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're corrected, they take great offense to it. So it's just better sometimes to let them just go off into their la la land thinking they know what they're talking about. But the truth of the matter is, you only know what you read.
Mm.
And what I will say about Final Rule is I think the biggest misconception there is what third party marketing groups are. And that
TPMOs.
that in itself is, and the reason I use third party marketing group instead of what they use is because they are two very, very different things. Number one, anybody that earned an override off of an agent giving any support whatsoever is in that group. And there are a lot of people that didn't think they were in that group. And so when they were writing their letters, they were saying, well, I'm not an FMO. I'm exempt from that. Well, no, you're not. If you earn an override, you were included in that group. The other thing is the biggest misconception is the agent thought that they were immediately getting a raise. And while it was worded as such, there was a lot of money being taken away from those agents because they didn't read on past, like to the last page, as a lot of people do. And I'm type A and I'm guilty of this. I get accused of it all the time by my team as I read the first line of an email. And if it's something I love, I'll keep reading a little bit more. But, you know, I hardly ever get to the last word of the email if it's boring, right?
Right.
Well, a lot of agents thought Final Rule was boring, and they missed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When it concerns my income or concerns my clients or their welfare, and this rule included both, I'm going to be right in the middle of it. What a lot of people didn't realize about why I wanted to take action in that lawsuit is based on SSB's business unit, less than 2% of our overall profitability had to do with Med Advantage income. So it was not a money thing for me. It was clients need choice. And I'm going to fight for clients' choice until the day I die. So that was the biggest misconception about that. Agents didn't realize that this wasn't just about income.
Right.
This was about taking away a client's choice in what they want for their health insurance. And I'm
Right.
a big believer, especially getting ready to turn 62 in August, 3 years away from Medicare, what I like to call freedom. Those are the golden years for these clients. And they've worked their tails off to be able to have
Right.
the best health care in the world. And that was getting ready to be taken from them. And the second part that was getting ready to be taken away from them was the most important part of the equation. And that was a trusted advisor. And I wanted to fight to keep the trusted advisor in that equation. You know, when clients call CMS or HHS or Medicaid.gov or Medicare.gov or healthcare.gov, whatever thing you want to put on it, they just want an answer to their question. And we all know they very rarely get that. The other misconception in Final Rule was what all we do for our clients. There are so many of our clients that don't even know how to file for Part B We do that every day and we're not paid for that. We get clients on food stamps. We're not paid for that. We get clients' children involved so they know exactly what's going on. We don't get paid for that. When clients file claims and hospitals and doctors deny it, we don't get paid for that, but we're there. And the navigators and the people at Medicare.gov and Medicaid.gov, HHS, whoever you want to talk about, they don't know how to call the carrier and get the claim worked out for the client. So all of that was talked about in final rule. And all you heard in the chatter was, I'm going to lose my marketing dollars. Well, that's the very thing that the government's mad at you about. They think all you care about is these marketing dollars.
The money.
That you don't care about the welfare of the client. Well, those marketing dollars help offset some of the things that we do that there's no compensation for. And that was set originally when all of this was set up, that CMS was going to give that to the carrier. The carrier was going to pass that down. The problem is there were some bad actors that were using those marketing dollars inappropriately.
It's exactly what I was about to ask you. Because we've talked about this before too, and there's a few individuals that come to mind. Obviously, I won't say any names, but I'm curious to know.
But Gaylan might.
No,
Gaylan might. Hey,
that's
up to Gaylan. What Gaylan does on the pod is up to her. But
I think I mean, it's no secret now. Like there was groups that were taking large amounts of marketing funds from carriers and almost using it as like an incentive to move contracts over to groups. Like, and that is straight up.
Fortunately, none of those were my partners. I'll just clarify that here. But I think
they were publicly bragging about it too.
Yeah, they were
not just abuse; they were publicly bragging about doing it too, which was very distasteful.
Well, and there were agents that took those dollars that were publicly bragging about it, and riding around in airplanes and all that stuff. And here's the thing. I don't judge anybody that I don't know personally what's going on in their life, and that we have some friendship or we are good friends, because that does nothing but get you in trouble. And the truth of the matter is, I don't do that because I don't want that done to me. So it's a very easy way to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the most important things that I think agents need to do is to pick up the phone, call their senators, call their congressmen, and say, I just want you to talk to Mrs. Jones. Here's her phone number. She will tell you what I've done for her. And I'm not doing this, Mr. Congressman or Mr. Senator or Mr. Democrat or Miss Republican, to get kudos. I'm doing this because you all need to know what is really going on, so that when you are voting, you know how to vote. You know what's going on. And, I've had lots of conversations with different senators and congressmen, and I will tell you, I'll be at NABIP next week. One of my biggest beefs with a lot of this industry is they will sit there, bitch, moan, groan, gritch, gripe, complain on all these social media platforms, and I never see them at these events. And I'm like, instead of spending your money to go in the greatest world conference, be out in front of these people that are making decisions. And one of the things that happened last year is I had an agent that's new in the business, doesn't work with me, but stood up in front of CMS and uttered the words, I'm just a broker. And I had already promised myself I was going to be quiet. I was going to listen. I was going to learn. I was going to take notes, go back and talk to senators and congressmen. But when I heard her say, I'm just a broker, and CMS had just uttered the words that they get no complaints on the navigators or anybody at CMS, I beeline for the microphone. And I simply the comment, one of the reasons you don't get complaints at CMS is because they have to hold forever to be able to talk to anybody. And by the time they've already called an agent and said, hey, I need help. You're getting complaints on some of these bad actors, and you should, but you've also set up this tone that agents should narc on each other. And that's not good for our industry, and it's not good for our government. It's not good for our clients. It's not good for anybody. And then when I hear this agent who's literally trying her best to just do what's right for her clients say she's just a broker after CMS called her that, I stood up there and I said, first of all, I never want to hear that come out of your mouth. You're not just a broker. You are an important connector between the very constituents that our senators and congressmen swear to fight for and the carrier that takes care of them in some of the absolute worst times of their lives. There's nothing worse than hearing your mom or dad tell you, I've got cancer. I don't know how long I'm going to live. But there's this life-saving thing I can do, but I don't have the money. Kids are going to sell their homes. They're going to mortgage the bank. They're going to sell out their 401ks to pay that move. They're going to do whatever they got to do. When your mom walks in that Medicaid place, and I've got a check that I'm going to start bringing on the road with me that I got from the Medicaid facility. It's around $17,000 that they told me to go cash. I never paid $17,000. So why would I get a $17,000 check? But they can't have that money in their bank account or Medicaid will audit them. I call us Medicaid what to do. Just void the check. The nursing home tells me you can't void the check. We need that money out of our account. Do you know how many clients have probably their kids or them have gotten those checks and have cashed them because that's what they were told to do?
Right.
I mean, that's insanity.
Yeah.
And so it just needs to be done the right way. I don't think there's anybody that wakes up in the morning that's a good human being that says, I hate the federal government. I don't hate the federal government. I just want them to do things the right way, an organized way, the way we run our businesses. I want them to call me and ask me questions. And matter of fact, Senator Wyden and I could probably have one of the best conversations in the world if he would just return my call. Because he and I agree on 85% of what he thinks. Because he went through something very similar with his parents that I went through with mine. I just want him to understand what we do as agents. I want him to understand how good and how great 90% of our industry is. You know, it's just like the federal government. You're going to have 90% good guys and 10% bad guys. In school, you're going to have 90% of the kids that never touch a drug, and you're going to have 10% that do. It's just called life. This shouldn't be this difficult. And that's all I try to get the federal government to do. And fortunately, in the first lawsuit I was in, I was very blessed. We drew a fantastic judge, a judge that actually picked up the phone, told the lawyers in the courtroom, I'm going to call Gaylan Hendricks. She needs to dumb this down for me because you guys are making it way too complicated. And I remember him starting out the conversation with, hey, sister, I need to understand what these senior HI plans are. Well, those aren't the same plans we're talking about, Your Honor. There's a senior HI, there's an Obamacare alternative plan. You know, on day one, those clients get $9,000. And I remember him going, what? These guys are telling me they only get $150 copays. Yeah. Those are senior HI plans. Those are not the Obamacare alternatives we're talking to you about. And you can sell these, Your Honor, or enroll people in these for ACA supplement or for standalone. But the great thing about them is they're guaranteed renewable. And he goes, well, tell me what short-term medical is that's different than these. And I said, well, short-term medical is not guaranteed renewable. Hence the term short-term. Short-term doesn't mean for as long as you pay a premium.
Right.
But both sides, even our lawyers and the government's lawyers, did not understand what these policies did. And they didn't understand that they're hospital indemnity cash plan filings. So the judge got it. Judge O'Connor gets it. And don't forget, y'all, these are federal employees too. I mean, they sit in the federal court of law. And to pick up a phone on a Saturday and say, hey, Gaylan, I need to understand this. Dan and I were buying his shoes for an insurance company trip. I'll never forget it. We were in Dillard's. And the guy was just so nice and kind and just wanting to understand. And he goes, so let me get this right. If a client has an ACA plan and they have your plan, the ACA plan's going to pay, and you're going to give them $9,000. Yes, Your Honor. We have to. It's what the plan says.
Right.
And Gaylan, he said, Gaylan, okay, can you tell me that? I mean, that's such greatness.
That is greatness. And I think that's exceptional from what we see a lot of times, because a lot of times they don't even want to know more information. And what you said earlier about the big takeaway from Final Rule was that they didn't understand the industry. I heard that from everyone all over, top to bottom. The Final Rule coming out, it was very clear. They didn't know what a TPMO should be or how it should be defined or what an FMO's role is or what an agent's role is. There was so much confusion, so much contradiction. So